So, how did you meet Sister Hallelujah?
Oh, Sister
What is
Holiday.
that story? She told a brief story, but I know she ain't telling the full. So I don't really remember. I just went here, this and that. Maybe your dad will probably remember. I'm like, okay, she don't remember the
That's
'70s either. So,
that's funny because before I can tell you how I met your mother, I actually met Trinity's mom first because
mm.
all of us was going to the same school,
So Trinity's mom and my mom and you were all at the same school.
all at the same school,
Wow,
all at the
I
same
didn't even
school.
know that.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that.
So, and me and Trinity's mom were actually in the same class. We were taking data entry, and your mom was taking uh, early development, childcare, and
hmm
early childcare development. And she actually, this funny. She ain't gonna like this. Your mom was talking to this guy named Chris.
Chris, yeah, I brought that up to her. I said, "Wasn't there a Chris involved in this story?" She's like, "Ah, I think so, yeah."
Yeah. See, Chris could sing. Or he faked like he could sing. He could sing. So that's how him and your mother was vibing. Ask her about the talent show. That that was
Whoa.
hilarious. Yeah, the talent show. But so I knew she was talking to Chris, and me and Chris was cool in school. And then Chris dropped out. Now by this time, Trinity's mom had already dropped out.
Yeah.
But so I would see her every day. I'd be like, "Where Chris at?" And she'd be like, "I don't know. I don't know where Chris at." I was like, "You got his number? Can you tell him I'm looking for him?" And she was like, "I don't know. It's somewhere at home. I don't know where his number at." I was like, "Okay." So that went on for about a week and a half. So next time I seen, you seen Chris? Where Chris at, man? We almost finished. Where he at? And she was like, "I don't know." I say, "Did you get his number?" She say, "No." I say, "Look, give him my number." She say, "No." She say, "Give me your number and I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna give you Chris' number." I said, "Oh, okay." So she kind of low key booked me on the slide. You see what I'm saying? She ain't gonna tell you
You know
that
what's
part.
you know what's funny? I asked her who approached who first. She was like, "Oh well, Michael did because knowing me, I ain't finna make the first move on nobody."
Mm-mm. She said, "Give me your number and I'll call you and give you Chris' number." So, and that's how we started talking. And
Okay.
from day one, she was talking that religious stuff, and I used to, you know, at 20, I was just wow. I curse like you curse now. So
Hey, I don't be cursing. I don't be cursing that much, do I?
she would say, "Mike, watch your mouth. Do you always gotta say those words?" And I'd be like, "Ah, God." But and that's how me and your mother met. And we started talking after that. So
When she went off on me in the interview. She said, "Yeah, I heard your little video, your little rap video, you cursing." I was like, "Oh, come
mhm.
on."
She wasn't. Your mom wasn't much for cursing, but she could drop a choice few if she wanted to, if she wanted to.
Right.
But it was a transition point in my life when I met her. And she was talking a whole bunch of good stuff about God and religion and all that good stuff. And I was really trying to turn my life around at that point, just from
Mhm.
not doing anything. And so,
Yeah.
but that's how we started talking and this and that. And, I can't say everybody agreed. Your grandpa didn't agree.
Yeah. So, what was everybody's reaction when my mom was pregnant? Like, what was your mom's reaction, and how did my grandparents, my mom and dad, my mom's parents, how did they feel about you and the whole pregnancy, and how did you react as well?
Well, I got to go back a little bit on the story because this is what happened. When I met your mom and we started talking and we started seeing each other, she told me, you know, "Oh, I'm leaving at the end of the summer." I was like, "At the end of the summer? What? Where you going?" She was like, "When I met your mom, your your grandfather and your grandmother and your sister and your aunt, they were in the process of moving to Georgia. And your grandfather had given your mother an ultimatum. He told her, find a place to live by the end of the summer, or you coming home. You coming down here. Well, your mother ran around with me all summer long, so she ain't think more about finding a place than a man on the moon. And true to your grandfather's word, at the end of the summer, he came up here. He told her pack her stuff, and she was off to Georgia. And oh, we were so sad. Sheila, no, don't leave, don't leave. And we were so sad. I kept saying, when she left, we would talk all the time and this, that, and the third. And, you know, profess our undying love for each other at 20, we we stupid, we liked each other, but we just had a false understanding uh, of reality. Your grandfather actually had the right idea in mind, not to leave his 20-year-old daughter up here in a house. He was trying to sell his house, and actually, your mom stayed there in an empty house all summer long, all summer, and she would come pick me up from the projects and drive me all the way back down Charles County, where me, her, Donnell, Gigi, sometimes her other girlfriend, and Lavelle, and Junior, we would all hang out all night long and stay up all night long. And then on our way to work at Greater Southeast Hospital, she would drop me back off over Southeast, and then she would go to work. And then when she got off from work, she'd come pick me up, and we hang out all night all over again. And your grandfather was like, you got to the end of the summer to find a place. And she didn't. And, because she really probably couldn't afford it. And she asked me if I wanted to move with her. They want to get a place together. And I was like, I ain't got no job. I don't know. No partners. No. I don't want to do none of that. So what happened was your grandfather took her to Georgia. Me and her came up with a plan to get her back up here. And it actually backfired. One of her uncles who was on his way from Mississippi picked her up in Georgia and drove her all the way back up here. And your grandfather and them, look, your mother gonna kill me for telling these stories, but I'm dead. I'm dead. Your grandfather and your grandmother and them chased them all the way up the highway, all the way. And I came and I got your mom and I took her to Southeast with me in the neighborhood called Simple City. I was living in Simple City at that time with my grandma. And that was probably the toughest period because your mom was not used to living on her own without her family. And I wasn't used to having her depend on me. We had kind of jumped into this thing without even thinking it through, like, okay, now we up here together. What we gonna do? I don't know. Sleep in this room all day. I don't know, So it was that type of thing. And then she got pregnant and we had broken up. And she called me on the phone and she said, Mike, I ain't tell you, but I'm 5 months pregnant. And I was like, 5, not 4, not 3, not 2, 5. I was like, I don't know. What am I do? Are you sure? Nah, Shell, I don't want to hear it. 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 You know, no, you wasn't even here. We broke up. You wasn't even here. And I was scared. I was like, I'm scared. I'm 20 years old. I'm scared. Like, I'm still living in my grandmother's bedroom and I'm scared. Then one of your cousins called from Mississippi. He talked to me and your grandfather called me. And he was like, my first thing was to do bodily harm to you. And I was like, no, Mr. Nelson, no, Mr. Nelson. I say, man, I say, Mr. Nelson, I don't know. She just called me almost 5 months, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. And I was scared. And your mother went back to Georgia because she was up here. Then she went back to Georgia, and we talked and we talked. And I talked to my mother. I told my mother, and then I talked to Jock. And Jock was the one who put it in perspective for me. He said, "You a man, Slim. That's your kid, and you need to do what you need to do." And after I talked to Jock, I was like, "You know what? You're right." And I think a couple weeks later, right around this time, it's probably around June now, and I found a job, and you know, and I went to work, and me and your mother started talking about. I think once I told everybody because when you're young like that and you're having a kid, and me and your mother our relationship was tumultuous because we were both so young, and I took her from the stability of the life she knew and said, "Come on, live in this projects with me, come on," and she didn't know anything about guns and drug stuff and all of that. She was used to living a stable life and this, that, and the third. But I was young and I didn't know no better. And she was young. I knew how to survive in my world, but she didn't. I just thought from honestly that, excuse me, kid, that you just survive, like, oh, it's easy. Just catch the bus. Look, that's on the bus down there. Like, it's not that easy. It's not easy for people that didn't grow up in that situation. And, looking back, and your mother tell you, I called her about 6 months ago and I apologized to her. I don't know if she told you. And
She told me y'all talked, and she said she apologized to you as well.
I don't know about that, but I
Oh
apologized to
dang,
her.
she
Right.
said it on the
She said,
podcast.
right. But, and you know what she said? She said, "Are you dying, Mike? Are you dying?" I say, "No." She said, "Why you calling me up?" I say, "I just want to apologize to you for that, for bringing you into that environment." I say, "I shouldn't have." I say, you know, "I'm so happy that we had our son, I say, but I should not have dragged you into my lifestyle, thinking that would change you because, you know, some people it breaks them." And
Yeah.
I will say your mother, she tough. She tough. And she can Joan too. She can Joan. So and she got tired of me talking trash about her and talking trash about Mr. Nelson. And she started firing back, boy. She will fire back. I'll tell you, yeah, she could go. She could go if you get it the wrong way. She'd be like,
Right.
yeah, she'd be like, "Man, did Connie whip you this week?" or something like that. Where Kenny at? Did Kenny still sell chips? You know. Yeah, she would get hers in, but it was at that point that I was like, I gotta do something. This my son, And I
Yeah.
knew your grandfather didn't. He never approved of me at that time because he was a DC police officer, and he had actually, policed the area in Paradise where I grew up at. He knew what time it was over there. And for your mom to tell him, yeah, oh, that's what I'm dating Mike, and he's from Paradise. Your grandfather was like, oh, no, you ain't talking to nobody over there. You ain't talking to nobody over there. And I think that after the initial shock of I was having a kid, I think one of my goals was to, show your grandfather, hey, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not that guy over there. I'm not this guy out there selling drugs. I'm not that guy. You know, I ain't the best guy, but I ain't that guy. And I'm gonna be there for my son. So I spent, at one time when you was little, you thought I lived at the hotel. Because any piece of crap car that I had, I would drive down there with the oil light on and everything. I'd drive on down there with the oil light on. you know, and it was tough. Your grandparents, they didn't approve of me in the beginning, but I was consistent and I always came down there. Whether I had to stay at the hotel, whether I stayed, whether I sat in my car. I mean, before I didn't even have a car, I would catch the bus down there. And I got familiar with the MARTA train and everything. We catching it, and you know, catch a cat. Highway 85 was my friend, but I got familiar with getting down there and getting back. And you might not remember, but a few times me and you caught the bus back from there to DC together. Um, so, but that probably was one of my main goals, was to impress Mr. Nelson, because your mother, she held him on such a high pedestal, and
Yeah.
I was like, and that was all the motivation I need. I was like, "Shit, he ain't gonna be better than that's my son. That's my son. You know. But shout out to Mr. Nelson. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna have him next week on here as well. Hopefully he know how to work this thing. I gotta get someone to help him.
because yes, Mr. Nelson was definitely well. Well, I'll say this: your mom rubbing Mr. Nelson in my face was a lot of motivation for me to be more stand up. Whether me and your mother could come to a consensus about our personal relationship, which we never did.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but that's what happens when you're 20 years old and you have a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you're from different life backgrounds, and people say that don't matter, but it does. It really
Right.
does.
Right.
So shout out to Chilla.